recovery of our city. When you look at all the disparities, it affects the city of Rochester residents the most. We have to concentrate and prepare our citizens to be able to participate in an economic recovery. We have.
What would you do to address it? We'll start with you, Mr. White.
I think the biggest challenge, unfortunately, is financial. Rochester has been running about $30 to $50 million short in the budget every year for the last couple of years. Further, in the last 2 years alone, our debt has gone from $283 million to $377 million. Now, we can keep borrowing for a while, but we can't keep borrowing indefinitely, and we can't keep borrowing to build projects. There are already 155 properties worth $1 million in Rochester that receive $30 million in tax breaks. If you own an average valued house in the city, that means $400 of your taxes are going to pay for nothing but these tax breaks for out-of-town millionaires. We have trapped ourselves with all of these tax breaks, making it virtually impossible to financially stabilize our city. And I'm not the only one who spotted it. There are others, and there are many people afraid of the financial situation of Rochester.
Mrs. Warren?
I believe we have to fix our schools. As I stated before, the number one reason why middle-class families leave our city is because of our schools, period. Now, when we look at a neighborhood like this, the one that I grew up in, and you also see the open-air drug market that happens in these neighborhoods, we have to deal with that. We cannot be afraid to deal with the open-air drug market. I believe that if we fix our schools, and if we dealt with the drugs and other issues that we have around crime in our neighborhood, that we would be able to take care of our financial problem, because it all goes hand in hand. It's not separate and distinct.
Mayor Richard?
I think there are two issues. Well, Alex is right. We have a financial challenge here, and if we don't straighten out our finances in the next several years, we're going to be in trouble. That's true for all the cities that are in our circumstances. He's got his numbers wrong. The numbers of borrowing he's got includes the school district. He's got some other things in there that aren't true. But fundamentally, getting ourselves in balance is correct, and we're not going to be able to rely on the real estate property tax to do it. That's an 18th century solution for a 21st century problem. And all this business about increasing other people's taxes and balancing it comes to nothing in the current circumstance. We've got to figure out how to do this differently. But I agree with Lovely. The problem that I would expect to bedevil the mayor for the next 4 years is education. It's the toughest of the things to solve. It's the toughest partly because we control so little of it as mayor, and partly because it is such a complex and difficult problem.
Any rebuttal? Mr. White?
I'm running for mayor, not school board, and we already have elected officials to look at the school board and to deal with the school problems. The mayor has, as Tom pointed out, very little say other than financial. So there's not a lot that the mayor can do here, but the mayor can do the financial things. The mayor can make it so it's more likely that people will invest. And the mayor, in the last couple of years, we have given away a lot of money. We've done a lot of building, and we've borrowed a lot of money. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight to what we're doing. We're planning more projects, like down at the beach, where we're going to put in a marina to compete against public marinas, and we're going to spend lots of money to do that, much of it borrowed. We need to put an end to this because we're living way above our means. And if my numbers are wrong, the city should fix their website, because that's where they all come from.
I introduced a 7-point plan, which includes everything that a mayor can do to help fix our schools. And so, although there's a elected school board that are in charge of the day-to-day operations and the superintendent, there are things that a mayor can do to enhance the educational outcome for the children that live in our city. It is unacceptable for us to accept the results that we have right now. It is unacceptable that the children in our city are not feeding colleges, but feeding a jail cell.
We'll move on to our next question. Any more rebuttals? All right. I've been asking for this for 10 years. Will this continue, or is this for show tonight? Mr. White?
How am I supposed to know that? The mounted patrol was an interesting project. The city brought it up in their voice of the voters saying that we need to cut it, it would save $700,000. But in the end, when all the numbers finally came through, it was only going to save about $50,000. Now, just recently, we gave $6.7 million to the Midtown Tower, money that wasn't included in choices on that budget. That $6.7 million had been lying around. With that, we could have saved the mounted patrol. Provided jobs to 500 students over the summer. Rehabbed 100 houses. And we would have had about enough money to restore all of the music programs to the education system. It's about choices. We can have these mounted patrols if we decide to afford them, and I think we can.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mr. Warren?
Well, you can thank City Council for saving the mounted patrols since you've been requesting them for a number of years. The issue on Chili Avenue, back in March, we learned from people in the neighborhood that there was a conflict going on. And Councilmember McFadden, who is the head of public safety, and I sent a letter to the mayor and the chief to ask for a larger police presence on Chili Avenue. To even go as far to request that a trailer be put there so that we could stop what's happening on Chili Avenue so that the residents in the neighborhood could feel safe. To this day, I have not received a response. To this day, a trailer is not there. And so I'm not sure if the horses are there just because the mayor is here.
Well, given that I'm the fellow who proposed to cut the horses, I doubt they're here for my benefit. Unless they intend to do something to the back of my car. But here's why I did it. Every time we go to the voice of the citizens and we talk about the budget, we give a hierarchy of things that people, if we had to make a judgment, what would we cut? And quite frankly, that came to the top every time. The reason that the number that Alex said was less is I wasn't trying to cut the horses. What I was trying to do is take those resources, there are 8 police officers there, and put them back into the tactical unit on patrol. Feeling as they could have a better influence, a bigger impact on violence, on those violence issues, as part of the tactical unit than they could on those horses. And we got into a disagreement about it, we compromised, and we saved 2/3 of it. Those judgments, by the way, in terms of the request of the letter that was written, the chief did meet with Adam McFadden, and we have substantially beefed up the patrols on Chili Avenue. And anybody who's been there has seen it. So we have responded to it. We may not have responded to you, I apologize if that was so, but he did meet with Adam.
Time is up, Mr. Reed. Any rebuttals? All right, we'll move on to the next question. It's on the topic of skilled trade jobs. As you know, the bulk of the skilled trade workers can retire over the next 5 years. What do you think the impact can be in Rochester, and have you thought of any action? Mr. White?
This is an opportunity where education comes into play. One of the things, because there's such a large segment of skilled workers who are going to be retired, it's an opportunity for us to get young people involved in this as jobs and careers. And our school district plus our city could focus on this. There are opportunities to include in the project labor agreements, which I'm happy to see after our last election are now being used, that they could require apprenticeship programs. And the apprenticeship program would help get more young people involved in the trades. So I see this as an opportunity, which I think we should be using more of.
Mrs. Warren?
We have a skill set deficiency in our community, and I think that we need to work with our institutions such as MCC, REOC, and as well as our trades to make sure that we are training our people to be able to fulfill those jobs that are coming online. But that's part of it. The other part is that you have to ensure that when you put things in place, that people actually follow them. Just because it's in writing does not necessarily mean that the powers that be will follow it. And that's why, as mayor, you have to pay close attention to what is going on out there in the community. Because even though we had a PLA for Midtown on phase 2, it was the requirements were not being fulfilled. And just even recently, I went over to the Gantt Center that's being renovated, newly renovated, and you know what? There was not one African American or one Hispanic, and there was only one woman over there. When we invest money in our city, we have to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to participate.
Thank you. Mayor Richards?
The issue of providing those opportunities in the skilled trades is before us. And that's one of the reasons why we have used the PLAs. That's one of the reasons we want to get people into the unions. And getting the unions to agree to that is a big step. Getting them to accept that responsibility is a big step. Because that in the past has been viewed not as an opportunity, but as a block for that. And I agree with many of the suggestions that Lovely has made with respect to the training. One thing I'd add is the Robert Brown School of Construction at Edison Tech. We've struggled with that in the school system, getting it up and running and making it as effective. Edison Tech, when I was a kid, you used to take a test to get in there. It was hard to get in there. It was really considered to be a premier place for an alternative way of getting a good career. And we need to get it back. And one of the things that has started through the Robert Brown School of Construction is to do exactly that.
Any vote? Mrs. Warren? No vote. Okay, next question.